So for this video, I'm going to do something that I thought some of you might find interesting. I'm just going to make the work drawings for the other 4 pieces of my puzzle cube. So there's 2 ways you can do this. One way is to make a new file. The other way is actually just to add in one of the files or add in another sheet. So in drawing resources, in sheet formats, we're going to use A-size landscape. So we can just double click on that. And then if you have your files already open, so I already have all my part files open, so they're automatically in this little drop down menu. If you don't already have them open, you can just kind of search for them using this little folder with the magnifying glass. So I'm going to start with my red puzzle piece, and then I'm going to click OK. So with this, remember we're now in sheet 2 instead of sheet 1. Actually, what we can also do is if we click on the sheet, we can change kind of the name of it. So this one I'm going to label green. So green piece. This one will be red piece, just because I'm going to have a bunch of these and I don't want to lose track of what we're doing. So when you're doing this, you don't have to do that part, but I'm just going to do that to make it a little bit easier for you to follow along. So I'm going to open up our sheet 2, and you can see we have large. We don't want large. We want to delete that. And then we want to bring in ANSI A. So we have more room in our title block, or more for our page. So this happens to be a great front view, which is nice. What I can do next is go to Place Views, Projected, and place in my other views. Then right click, Create. Remember, you're going to have those boxes until you do right click and create. Alright, so I'm going to double click on this, shade, OK, and here are my views. So for this one, having this flipped to this side might look a little bit better, but I always refer to this piece as the J puzzle piece, so I'm going to leave it shaped as a J, because that is what I would consider the front view for this piece. So I'm going to go to Annotate, Dimension, and add in the dimensions for this part. So you just saw that I clicked on that green dot. You can see how it's not actually doing anything. So if I move off to the side, you can see how it's mentioning in the middle. We don't actually want that. So what I'm going to do is delete that and then put it back in. So I want the full line, not just that little tiny portion. And I'm going to click from this corner to this line. I can place this. So I know in the green video I said you don't want the lines going over anything, but realize that they can go through as long as they're not overlapping with one of your lines. So if they can cross it like this, but they can't go along it. So if I was to do, let's just say one from here to here, and ooh, nice. So this one actually does pick up on this. The old version did not pick up on that. So that's good to know. So if you have used this before, that's something that if you made a mistake in the previous version, it's starting to correct it for you. So that will be very helpful for you guys when you're learning this. All right. And I'm going to go from here to here. Oh. So now that this moved to the side, I'm just going to talk about this for a second. So you can have dimensions going at an angle like this, but for this project, avoid that. We have everything at nice right angles, so there's really no point to it. So we're going to place this in. All right. And you can kind of see this little dotted line part. That kind of gives you a good idea of where might be a good spot to place your dimensions. And this little line right here, that's letting you know it's centered. So for this one, since we don't have too much going on, it's not really that important to line everything up nicely. It does make it look a lot nicer, but in reality, you can kind of place things a little bit how you want. Just remember that these hidden lines, do not dimension them ever. If you need to dimension something that has a hidden line with it, then instead of dimensioning this, you're going to dimension on a different view. So I have all my height dimensions, all my width dimensions, and my depth dimensions. That's all set up. All right, so we can add in the title. All right, and then realize here you'd put your name and class. All right, so the next one is going to be our yellow piece. All right, so grab yellow. All right, so when you're doing this and you're adding the sheet and you select your new paper size and everything, it's going to bring in whatever was the front view according to the little cube in your actual part file. So for this one, I don't remember what's the best front view for this. I might have actually made this one with the good front view. So actually this one might be better. Yep. Yeah, so I just happened to make this one with a good front view. All right, so I'm going to now change our title block size to make sure that I don't forget that. Sometimes you might forget it, so the easy quick check to make sure you have the right one without even having to look over where it's on this piece. This used to be called the browser, now it's just called model. All right, if you had it closer to 2, then you know it's in the wrong spot. If it's in the middle of 2 in the arrow, then you know it's ANSI A. So quick check, that's how I quickly look at that to make sure you guys have it in the right spot. So again, place views, projected, place in our other ones, and create. So you can see how these two kind of have pretty good views where they look very, very similar. And this one technically has less hidden lines, so therefore this one does kind of give you a little bit more of a better front view. This one does have a hidden line, but this is a really good isometric. So actually, I'm going to just turn this. Click OK. You can see how all of these automatically turn. So I'm going to now just do projected. So you can kind of see the two isometrics side by side. So this one's for how it's arranged right now. This is how it is by itself. So in reality, which one's better? Actually, let's go with this one, just because there are no hidden lines. So it's kind of following more of the rules that we want to do for this project. So I'm going to delete the view for how I had it previously, and this is our new isometric view for this. Okay, so what we're going to do is shade it, and it's all nice and shaded. So we're going to add in our dimensions. So for this one, we have our total height and our height for our next little portion. And I'm going to do this small portion for the width and our total width. All right, and then again, do the next one for depth and then this small portion for depth. So remember, we don't have to dimension this other part because we have the total and then the smaller portion of it. All right. So remember, in yours, you would also fill out the title and name and class. So I'm going to go on to the next one. Oh, forgot to name the sheet. Okay, so if you're still in the dimension tool, if you hit escape on your keyboard, you back out of it. Alright, so our next one would be, let's see, I guess blue would be our next one. And then, okay. Alright, and now we got to change our title block size. So for those of you asking, why don't we just click on it first when we do this? We can't insert a new one without deleting the old one. So that's why we just can't double click on it and swap it out. So in our sheet 4, we're going to now delete. We're now at ANSI A, and we can start. Some of you might have noticed that our sheet number keeps increasing. So if we go back to here, you can see this is now sheet 2. If you're over here, we have sheet 4. So that's kind of the other reason why it's nice to put them all in the same one. You kind of keep track of which sheet's which. All right, so again, place views, projected. As you can tell right away that this is the best front view. All right. So nice stable position, no hidden lines. You can see most of the details without a problem. All right. So now we're going to go to dimension. Add in our dimensions. So you might be wondering why I always put them in the exact same spots. you're going to want to make sure that you have most of your height dimensions and most of your width dimensions on the same view, so your front view. That's where you're going to want most of these to be placed. Okay, and then your depth dimensions can actually be placed over here. So your height dimensions can be placed over here, here, and here. Width can be placed here, across here, across here, across here. Depth here, 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 and here. So there's plenty of places to put things, so when things overlap a little bit weird, you're gonna kind of have to move stuff around. So this is it for this one, except for title and name and class. All right, and then our next one, and I did the same thing again. So again, if you're stuck in a tool, if you just hit escape, I found if you hit escape about 3 times, it backs you out of just about anything you need to be backed out of. Alright, and now we're going to go for our last puzzle piece. So purple, and then OK. Alright, so again we need to be in our sheet, delete ANSI large. Remember, don't delete the one from title blocks, because if you do that by mistake, it will cause some problems later on. So for this one, let's see, is this the best front view for this? So that gives us a good amount of information. Let's see if I tip it this way. It's really no better. Alright, so I guess this way works. So we're going to use this. So projected. Alright, we're going to make sure this is shaded. Oh. Double click. Shaded. Okay, and remember it doesn't shade until you click OK. Alright, and then annotate dimensions. So we're going to dimension here. We're going to dimension here. And we're going to dimension to here. Alright, and then this time for all of my width dimensions, instead of placing them on this view, I'm going to place them on this view. The reason for that is these lines, they're going to quickly overlap and it's going to make a whole mess of everything. It's going to be really hard to understand what's going on. So I'm going to add in our smallest dimension first, because our smallest dimension needs to be closest to the part. Then our next largest dimension. And finally our overall dimension. Okay, so this little gap we can kind of figure out by this number minus this one gives us that. And for this gap, this number minus this one gives us that. And for this one, it's just that number. Alright, and then we need our depth. Just to kind of spread stuff out a little bit more, I'm going to add the depth right here. Alright, so remember for this, you're also going to want to fill out title and name and class. So I'm going to relabel this. Alright. So now I have all of my pieces. And if I want, I can actually move these. I'm going to have this in rainbow order just because they make sense. It's a order for them. That's logical. And you can see how green piece and then it was :1 now changed to green piece :3. So if I go to green, which originally was page 1, you can see that it's automatically updated to sheet 3. So it's a easy way to move things around after the fact if you don't like the order. Okay. So remember with these, when you hand them all in, you're going to want to make sure that you take these and turn them into PDFs before you submit it to me, because remember, Schoology doesn't read these files exactly how you want them to be. So just a quick reminder, make sure in here you have name and class, in title of your part, be something as simple as green puzzle piece. Simple as that. But please don't forget your title and name and class.